5 people stuck in an elevator. The claustrophobic hell for those who are scared. And when I say hell, I actually mean hell, because they're stuck with a demonic entity. So stick until the end to see who that could be. Welcome to your daily dose of movie pill. Today we'll be recapping a 2010 movie titled Devil. Spoilers ahead, and let's dive right in. In a grimy building, a janitor mops the floor just as a body crashes through a window and lands on a truck outside with a sickening thud. Across town, 2 men share a tense dinner. One talks about the struggles of recovering alcoholics like the man in the suit, but the man in the suit reveals the pain of past trauma makes forgiveness difficult. He longs for normalcy, for conversations free of the tragedy that befell his family 5 years ago. Suddenly, the scene shifts. The man in the suit, now revealed as a detective, crosses a police line. Another officer leads him to a gruesome discovery: the dented truck with a body sprawled across its bed. The detective examines the deceased and looks up at the surrounding building. His partner expresses disbelief. A keen eye for detail catches something. The pavement around the truck is free of shattered glass. The detective theorizes the body didn't fall, but rather the truck rolled, carrying the victim to its final resting place. Following this hunch, the detectives turn a corner, their eyes falling upon a building that aligns more convincingly with the deadly trajectory of the body. Next to the modern skyscraper, we witness the introduction of various characters one by one. Initially, there's a man in a hoodie loitering nearby, followed by a gentleman wearing a red tie who strides past him and enters the building. Next, our attention shifts to the security guard who answers a ringing phone at the reception desk, while an elderly woman stands confused in the middle of the lobby. Shortly after, a young woman enters the lobby, passing the security guard at the reception before being stopped by him and directed to the back of the line to sign the visitor's log. Meanwhile, the security guard instructs his colleague to take a package to the 39th floor and proceeds towards the elevator. Attempting to enter an elevator, the man with the red tie and the elderly lady find it full, so they decide for the next one that arrives empty. They are joined by the security guard, but just as the doors begin to close, someone calls out to wait, allowing the young woman from earlier to enter. Another person, unable to get assistance, grabs the door and enters. It turns out to be the same man in the hoodie. Once everyone is inside, the elevator starts moving, but suddenly stops and becomes jammed. Meanwhile, an elderly security guard is engrossed in watching a hockey game in the main security room. A younger colleague enters, and they engage in a conversation about the ongoing game. It catches the younger guard's attention that one of the elevators is in inspection mode, prompting the older guard to contact the building engineer to address the issue. While the engineer is occupied fixing a broken window high up in the building, the guard urges him to prioritize checking the elevator due to the presence of trapped individuals. Inside the elevator, tension mounts as a security guard grows increasingly anxious. The elderly woman persistently asks him about the emergency procedures, but he, being a temporary employee, lacks the necessary knowledge. Joining her in questioning, the man in the red tie activates the emergency button. As they wonder aloud why the security guard doesn't have a walkie-talkie, a voice emanates from the elevator's communication system, reassuring them that help is on the way. However, the older security guard struggles to communicate with them and requests they speak into the camera, realizing there's an issue with the microphone preventing him from hearing them. The security guard inside the elevator attempts to call the lobby using his cell phone, but due to poor signal, he receives no response. In a gesture of kindness, the young woman offers him her phone, but their call is brief and quickly loses connection. Meanwhile, music begins playing in the elevator, prompting the man in the red tie to start singing, much to the annoyance of everyone else in the elevator. Simultaneously, the engineer is en route to the machine room at the top of the building, where a gust of wind dislodges his hat, nearly causing him to lose his balance. Down at ground level, 2 detectives are seen approaching and engaged in conversation. One detective, having previously been at the diner, discovers glass on the pavement and observes a man nearby sweeping up more glass. He instructs the man to cease his actions and declares the area a crime scene. The situation intensifies when a large piece of glass falls from the building, narrowly missing his partner and confirming his suspicion. Back inside the building, the engineer is observed inspecting the elevator from the shaft. He contacts the main security room to report that everything appears normal, but advises them to reset the elevator. Back at the elevator, the senior security guard informs the group that the light will be out for roughly 20 seconds. As the lights dim and then flicker back on, the elderly woman screams at the guard, demanding him to stay away from her, to which he promptly apologizes, revealing his severe claustrophobia. In a bid to alleviate the situation, the third individual in the group pushes a panel at the top of the elevator, allowing fresh air to filter in. When the security guard suggests climbing up, the others caution against it, citing the dangers of ascending the cable. Meanwhile, in the machine room, the engineer inquires with the main security if the reset worked, only to receive a negative response. In the main security office, the 2 guards discuss the broken window in the building, speculating that someone might have jumped from it earlier that morning. Back on the elevator, the man in the red tie offers his business card to the elderly lady, sparking a conversation prompted by his remark about her. He boasts about his ability to discern wealth and makes comparisons between the elderly lady and the young woman, insinuating that the latter's a attire suggests affluence. Offended, the young woman accuses him of grabbing her, just as the lights begin to flicker. Concerned by the flickering lights, the senior guard in the main office contacts the engineer to inquire if he's causing it. The engineer reassures him that he's merely inspecting the elevators from below, and asserts that everything seems fine from his vantage point. He then manipulates a lever on the side of the elevator, questioning if it helps alleviate the situation. The senior security guard updates the engineer, indicating that there has been no change in the situation. In response, the engineer resolves to return to the roof and manually reset the system. Meanwhile, the lights in the elevator flick once more, an event witnessed from the main office. As the younger guard observes something unsettling on the screen, he experiences a sense of fear. Simultaneously, the engineer hears an unusual voice and investigates beneath the elevators, narrowly avoiding being crushed by a descending elevator. Following this, the lights in the elevator flicker again before extinguishing completely, accompanied by strange noises. When the lights return for the third time, the occupants discover the young woman lying on the ground, prompting concern from the guards in the main office. It's then noticed she sustained an injury on her back. Inside the elevator, panic ensues as suspicions arise regarding the man in the red tie, who attempts to conceal blood on himself. Upon the young woman's mention of feeling as though she was bitten, the third individual inquires if anyone possesses something sharp that would have caused her harm. The security guard inside the elevator then notices blood on the man with the red tie and proceeds to search him for a weapon. Observing the unfolding events from the security room, the guards determine the need to involve the police due to the reported assault. Outside the building, the detective from the diner converses with forensics. Upon receiving the call about the elevator incident, he realizes it's the building with the broken window and decides to take on the case, bringing along his partner. Meanwhile, back at the main office, the younger guard retrieves footage capturing the moment he observes something unusual on the screen and shares it with the older guard. Despite the younger guard's concern, the older guard dismisses it as merely grainy footage. Sensing something sinister, the younger guard clutches his cross, convinced he witnessed something malevolent. Inside the elevator, the security guard and the third individual attempt to forcefully open the doors, unsure if there's an escape route through the shaft. The elderly woman expresses fear that the elevator may be dangling and could drop at any moment. Meanwhile, the man in the red tie tries to assist with the doors, but is relegated to the back of the elevator to keep an eye on him. Upon the arrival of the two detectives at the main security office, the older guard presents him with the security camera footage and explains the assault. He informs them that the occupants of the elevator believe the man in the red tie is responsible. After assessing the situation, the detective advises the security guards to request a repairman from the elevator company and instructs his partner to call the fire department. He then asks about the individuals inside the elevator, particularly focusing on the security guard. Upon learning that he's a temporary employee, the detective orders the guard to retrieve his files. The detective also disregards the footage and instructs the individuals inside the elevator to show their IDs to the camera for identification. Unfortunately, the writing on the IDs is illegible. Consequently, the detective and the older security guard head to the lobby to consult the visitor's log for information. Meanwhile, back at the main security office, the younger guard monitors the security camera from the elevator when the lights flicker once more. Inside the elevator, the young woman experiences a chilling hallucination where all the occupants transform into bloody corpses on the floor, only for everything to return to normal seconds later. The lights then go out completely. The elevator mirror shatters and eerie noises echo in the darkness. When the lights return, the man in the red tie is discovered to have been fatally stabbed in the neck with a shard of glass from the shattered mirror. Simultaneously, the younger guard contacts the two detectives, prompting them to return. Upon their arrival, they confirm the man's death and call for backup. As they begin reviewing the footage, the younger guard recounts a story, suggesting that such situations often involve suicides and harm when the devil is near, sometimes taking human form to torment people. He concludes by insinuating that one of the elevator occupants might be the devil. However, the detectives remain disinterested in the guard's narrative, continuing to review the footage and considering the possibility of the security guard's involvement in the murder. The partner reveals that his records indicate the security guard has a history as a violent criminal. Meanwhile, the occupants within the elevator discuss the potential identity of the murderer. As the fire department arrives at the building, the detective in the main security office informs the individuals inside the elevator that the area is now a crime scene. Although the detective suspects foul play, he observes that the individuals don't appear to be killers. He devises a plan and asks for a volunteer, instructing the chosen person to retrieve a piece of paper from the deceased man's pocket. The volunteer holds up the letter to the camera, allowing the office personnel to decipher it and uncover that the dead man intended to meet someone in the building. Subsequently, the detectives meet with the fire department before the detective from the diner investigates the level of the building with the broken window. Forensics inform him that the suicide note left by the jumper is peculiar. Outside the elevator, the firefighters attempt to open the doors, but they remain stuck. Inside, one of the occupants tries to exit from the top of the elevator, prompting the security guard to restrain him under the suspicion of attempting to escape. The detective converses with the individual who was supposed to meet the deceased man from the elevator, discovering that he was a scam artist and requests a list of his victim. Meanwhile, within the elevator, the occupants commence a search of each other. Meanwhile, within the bustling confines of the main security office, the detective returns. He shares his suspicion that one of the individuals failed to sign in, reasoning that if they had malicious intent toward the man with the red tie, they wouldn't overlook such a basic protocol. Passing over another list, he instructs his partner to cross-reference the information. Afterward, he approaches the security guards, where the young guard presents him with a facial image extracted from the surveillance footage. In response, the detective counters with a poignant reminder, revealing an apology note left by the individual responsible for a tragic car accident resulting in the loss of the young guard's wife and kid. While they talk, the experienced guard carefully examines the video, finding the part where the young woman says she was touched without permission, but the video doesn't show it happening, making them wonder if she's telling the truth or not. Observing the occupants in the elevator engaging in a mutual search, the detective intervenes, stopping their actions and urging cooperation. However, tensions within the confined space escalate, culminating in a confrontation wherein the elderly lady threatens to deploy an expired pepper spray against the security guard, prompting a swift response. Simultaneously, in the main security office, the older guard urgently contacts the engineer, urging him to cease his elusive behavior. Unbeknownst to them, the engineer maneuvers precariously down the elevator cable, grappling with the unresponsive communication equipment. A perilous misstep leads to a catastrophic chain of events as his protective gear stumbles, resulting in a heavy object crashing onto the elevator roof. Amidst the ensuing chaos, the voice of the seasoned guard resonates from above, followed by the ominous seepage of blood through the top panel. Unable to breach the panel, they find themselves at an impasse. The detective ventures to the roof to inspect the shaft and is met with a grim sight. The engineer lies motionless atop the elevator, likely deceased. Alerting the others, he advises them that the elevator occupants can hear the walkie-talkie and suggests they switch channels, ordering the fire department to enter the elevator through the wall. Meanwhile, scrutiny of the footage in the main office reveals unsettling truth. The detective observes footage implicating the old lady in theft, leading him to conclude that all the individuals involved harbor dubious intention. As the security camera glitches, an eerie scene unfolds, depicting all elevator occupants as lifeless. However, this morbid revelation remains exclusive to the detective's discerning eye. Further analysis of the footage unveils peculiar discrepancies, notably regarding the third man's entry into the lobby with a satchel absent in the elevator, as the lights in the elevator flicker once more before extinguishing. When the lights return, the old lady is discovered suspended within the elevator, lifeless. Reacting swiftly, the detective initiates a building-wide lockdown. Meanwhile, the older guard descends to the basement while the detective and the younger guard remain in the office, reflecting on the harrowing events. Inside the elevator, the two men solemnly lower the old lady's body, grappling with the unnerving reality of their predicament. Meanwhile, detectives embark on a search for the elusive satchel, eventually locating it within a restroom adjacent to the lobby. Suspecting foul play, they uncover a collection of tools inside the satchel, raising suspicions of potential elevator tampering. In the main office, the younger guard finds himself alone and turns to reciting prayers over the intercom system. However, his actions provoke disapproval from the occupants of the elevator, leading to a swift escalation into a physical altercation between two of the individuals. Amidst the chaos, the young woman calls for the security guard to intervene, further intensifying the conflict. As tensions rise, the detective enters the main office, observing the chaos in the elevator. They assert authority, instructing everyone to stand against the walls calmly. Once order is restored, the detective questions the younger guard about the outcome, leading to a grim revelation of imminent danger. In a parallel investigation, the detectives delve into the background of the young woman, uncovering her marriage to a wealthy individual and her visit to the building to consult a lawyer. Racing against time, they seek out the lawyer for insights, learning about his expertise in forensic accounting, and receiving cryptic advice to carefully investigate those closest to her. Simultaneously, the elderly security guard undertakes a task in the basement, stopping the flow of water and informing the firefighters as they laboriously breach the wall. Amidst his endeavors, he encounters a submerged wire, prompting a perilous attempt to remove it. Tragically, moments later, chaos erupts in the lobby as he collapses, succumbing to his fate. Inside the elevator, the remaining occupants find themselves embroiled in renewed discord as the detectives return to the main office. The detectives entertain the notion that the young woman's husband, who happens to own the security company operating within the building, may have orchestrated the unfolding chaos. Within the elevator, the lights flicker once more, prompting the detective to advise the occupants to utilize their phone screens as makeshift flashlights. However, their attempts are prevented as their phones are forcibly ripped from their grasp. Upon the restoration of light, the security guard is discovered lifeless, amplifying the sense of desperation among the remaining two individuals. Fearing for their lives, they arm themselves with a shard of glass, poised for self-defense. In a desperate plea for assistance, the detective turns to the younger guard, seeking guidance on how to navigate the escalating crisis. Encouraging introspection, the younger guard imparts wisdom on embracing accountability for their actions, prompting the detective to share a touching personal story. Moved by his words, the occupants reluctantly lower their makeshift weapons. However, their respite is short-lived as darkness once again envelops the elevator, only to be replaced by a gruesome scene. The young woman lies incapacitated with a shard of glass protruding from her throat. As her companion rushes to her aid, a chilling specter emerges, the spirit of the elderly woman, ominously declaring that it is now his turn. In a haunting sequence, the man experiences a vivid flashback of a traumatic event, a reckless moment behind the wheel, culminating in a fatal collision. Confronted with the consequences of his actions, he witnesses the agonizing demise of a mother and her child, forever haunted by the weight of his past transgressions. The man grapples with the gravity of his actions, his conscience weighed down by remorse as he flees the scene, leaving behind a touching note on the other car's window pane. Inside the confines of the elevator, he is consumed by guilt, incessantly pleading for forgiveness from the elderly lady, even begging the devil himself to spare the young woman and take him in her place. However, his desperate pleas fall on deaf ears as the devil callously rejects his offer, condemning them all to a fate beyond their control. In a moment of clarity amidst the chaos, the man seizes the engineer's radio, embarking on a confession that is heard by the detective, unraveling the truth behind his tragic deeds. As the detective and the young guard grapple with the weight of his revelation, inside the elevator, the young woman breathes her last breath, cradled in the man's arms. Yet even in death, their torment is far from over. The devil's wrath descends upon them, casting the elevator into a free fall down the shaft. Amidst the flickering lights, a glimmer of hope emerges as the firemen pry open the doors. Despite being the sole survivor of the ordeal, the man finds salvation beyond reach, pierced by the devil's malevolence. As paramedics solemnly carry out lifeless bodies, the detective's gaze falls upon him, a silent witness to the tragedy. Determined to seek justice, the detective escorts the man to the station, where an unexpected revelation awaits. In a moment of venting, the detective extends an act of forgiveness, revealing that it was the detective's own family he inadvertently took from this world. Despite the irreversible loss, the detective extends forgiveness, a beacon of compassion amidst the darkness that has consumed them all. Maybe this movie was a reminder that you should always take the stairs. Or maybe they wanted to listen to that soothing elevator music. Either way, that didn't end well for either of them. I rate this movie a 7 out of 10. What do you think? Looks like this movie pill is starting to wear off. But don't worry, there's always more where that came from. Tap here to keep the effects going with this next movie, because who can stop at just one? And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe, because your next movie dose is just a click away.